the heir's questionable lineage. House of the Dragon Season 2 is coming soon, and to help you better enjoy the viewing experience, we'll continue to bring you a quick recap of Season 1. Get ready for the first dose of the upcoming Blood and Fire Warriors. 6 years have passed since Rhaenyra married Laenor. During this time, Rhaenyra has given birth to 3 sons, the eldest, Jacaerys, the second, Lucerys, and the youngest, Joffrey, who was just born. However, none of these 3 children inherited the characteristic silver hair and purple eyes of the Targaryen family. Instead, they all have brown hair and brown eyes. Whispers and accusations, rumors began to spread, and given Laenor's known preferences, people believed that these 3 children were not his, but rather the offspring of Rhaenyra's lover, Sir Harwin Strong, the eldest son of the Hand, Lionel Strong. The Greens, led by Queen Alicent, especially spread these rumors. However, King Viserys seemed unconcerned. Since being wounded by the Iron Throne, his wound had not healed, and he had already lost one hand, his body deteriorating day by day. In his view, as long as a child was born to his daughter, they were his grandchild. Furthermore, the dragon eggs placed in these 3 children's cradles successfully hatched, which, on another level, was seen as an affirmation of their bloodline. Alicent's children and Aemon's dragonless state. Alicent has 3 sons and 1 daughter. Her eldest son, Aegon, second son, Aemond, and daughter, Helena, remained in King's Landing, while her youngest son, Daeron, was sent to Old Town as a squire. The queen's and princess's children grew up together, but except for Aemond, the other children all had dragons. Because of this, Aemond was inevitably looked down upon and isolated. One day, Aegon, along with young Jace and Luke, specially found a pig and attached wings to it, calling it a gift from death for Aemond, to mock his inability. Additionally, Princess Helena awakened the rare dreamer gene of the dragon family, often muttering to herself in a strange, prophetic way. But no one seemed to truly notice her behavior, simply dismissing her as a solitary royal princess. Criston Cole's bias and Harwin's rage. Criston Cole had already sided with Alicent. During training with the princes in the training yard, he often showed favoritism, imparting better combat skills to Aegon and Aemond. He ignored young Jace and Luke, and from time to time he would insult them by stating that Strong was their father. Cole's actions successfully enraged Harwin, who had long disliked him. So today, unable to restrain himself, Harwin assaulted Cole, releasing his emotions. However, assaulting the king's guard was a serious crime. The Hand, Lionel Strong, to protect his son and to put an end to the rumors between Harwin and Rhaenyra, proactively requested Viserys' permission to escort Harwin back to Harrenhal. At the same time, Rhaenyra and Laenor also decided to take their children back to Dragonstone to live, away from the gossip and whispers of King's Landing, so they could grow up happily in a safe environment. Velaryon's sacrifice. Alicent grew increasingly dissatisfied with the king's indulgence of his daughter. She complained to Larys Strong about how much she wished her father, Otto, was also in King's Landing to offer wise counsel to the king. To satisfy his strange obsession with Alicent, Larys Strong, disregarding familial ties, hired assassins to set fire to Harrenhal, mercilessly killing his returning father, Lionel, and brother, Harwin. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Narrow Sea, the rogue Prince Daemon married Lyanna Velaryon, the Sea Snake's daughter, and had 2 daughters, Baela and Rhaena. The family temporarily resided in a princely mansion in Pentos. While giving birth to her 3rd child, Lyanna suffered a difficult labor. Unwilling to be cut open like Queen Aemma, she willingly walked towards her mount, Vagar, and commanded the dragon to burn her with fire. Daemon, witnessing it all, could only take her remains and their daughters back to Driftmark for burial. Aemond claims Vagar and a bloody brawl. King Viserys and Princess Rhaenyra each brought their children to attend the funeral. At the same time, Otto was reinstated as Hand of the King. Upon seeing Daemon again, Viserys hoped to reconcile with his brother, as many years had passed and they were family by blood. But Daemon was clearly still angry with his brother, blaming him for not marrying Rhaenyra to him years ago. Meanwhile, Aemond noticed the dragon roar on Driftmark. Hagar, the largest dragon in the world, was now riderless, so he took advantage of the night, found this ancient beast, and ultimately, through his courage, tamed Vagar. The commotion even attracted Daemon and Rhaenyra, who were reuniting on the beach. Baela and Rhaena also noticed Aemond. Rhaena, because she hadn't hatched a dragon of her own, wanted to inherit her mother's Vagar. Unexpectedly, Aemond claimed the dragon first, so the two sisters, along with young Jace and Luke, confronted Aemond, who had just landed, to settle the score. Viserys' intervention and the princess's new marriage. Aemond, full of confidence, wouldn't back down. The two sides immediately started fighting. In a moment of panic, Luke slashed Aemond's left eye with a dagger. Fortunately, there was no life-threatening danger. Viserys also didn't want the matter to escalate, as they were all of the same blood and wanted both sides to stop and shake hands. But Alicent, unwilling to let it go, directly drew a dagger and lunged at Luke, intending an eye for an eye. However, Rhaenyra stopped her, and the incident ended with Alicent slashing Rhaenyra's arm. As Vagar flew back to King's Landing with Aemond, Rhaenyra deeply understood that the black and green conflict was irreconcilable, so she sought her uncle Daemon's help. The two, along with Leonor, who had long wanted to elope with his new lover Sir Carl Corey, devised a fake death scheme, freeing Rhaenyra from her marriage. Subsequently, the uncle and niece held a wedding on Dragonstone, becoming husband and wife. The rogue prince and the realm's delight were finally legitimately together. The succession crisis and Viserys' last wish. Another 6 years passed quickly. Having lost both his daughter and son, the sea snake, Corlys Velaryon, threw himself into a new war in the Stepstones, trying to force himself to forget everything, but unfortunately was severely wounded in a battle, barely clinging to life. The sea snake's brother, Vaemond Velaryon, unwilling to let the Velaryon family inheritance pass to Rhaenyra's son Lucerys, whose lineage was disputed, actively sided with the Greens in King's Landing, hoping to claim the inheritance of Driftmark for himself. Hearing the news, Rhaenyra and Daemon naturally refused to allow such questioning of their bloodline to be openly protected in King's Landing. This would be a major potential threat to her and Jace's claim to succession. So Rhaenyra and Daemon took their children to King's Landing, preparing to personally defend Luke's legal claim to Driftmark. What they didn't expect was that the power in King's Landing was now held by the Greens, led by Alicent and Otto. Viserys was so gravely ill that he could barely get out of bed, relying on milk of the poppy daily to alleviate his pain, appearing to be on his deathbed. Seeing his brother in such a state, Daemon reconciled with him and, along with Rhaenyra, showed him the two sons they had in recent years, young Aegon and young Viserys, both of whom had the Targaryen silver hair and purple eyes. Rhaenyra, who had intended to rely on the king to legitimize Luke, was disheartened to see her father so weak and shed tears. She asked Viserys if Aegon the Conqueror's prophetic dream would truly come true. Because the kingdom was facing division, Rhaenyra needed her father's support more than ever. But Viserys merely hoarsely fainted, unable to give his daughter the reply she desired in time. The next day, the hearing began. With the support of Otto and Alicent, Vaemond held the upper hand, giving Rhaenyra no chance to refute. Just as Rhaenyra was at a loss for words, Viserys, dragging his frail body, entered the throne room one last time, solely to protect his daughter. As he walked, his uncontrollable trembling caused his crown to fall. Daemon bent down to pick it up for him and gently helped him to the throne. At this moment, even if the brothers had had countless disagreements, resentments, and unresolved issues in their past, they all vanished and melted away the moment Daemon placed the crown on Viserys' head. And naturally, with the king's vocal support and then the direct consent of the unburnt Queen Rhaenys, young Jace and young Luke would be betrothed to Baela and Rhaena respectively. Rhaenyra won the final victory. However, Vaemond, unwilling to concede his family's inheritance so easily, publicly insulted Rhaenyra's children, calling them bastards. In a fit of rage, Viserys drew his sword and lunged towards the throne to kill him, But it was Damon who acted for his brother, cleaving Vaemon's head in half, upholding the honor of the king and his wife. As his days dwindled, Viserys also hoped that Alicent and Rhaenyra could reconcile. So, while he still had some strength, he hosted a dinner and purposefully pulled back the curtain to reveal his half-rotted body, pleading with them not to let the kingdom fall apart. Alicent and Rhaenyra were moved, toasting each other and expressing their apologies. At the dinner, the children also cooperated, presenting a harmonious picture until Viserys' pain flared up and he was carried to his room early. The mood then shifted. Aegon teased Baela in front of Jace. Luke mocked the one-eyed Aemond about a roasted pig, and Aemond loudly called his nephews strong bastards. A fight broke out. Finally, Daemon, Rhaenyra, and Alicent intervened to stop the children's dispute. Afterwards, Alicent gave Viserys a cup of milk of the poppy to relieve his pain, but the drowsy old king mistakenly thought she was his daughter Rhaenyra. He vaguely began to explain the prophetic dream of Aegon the Conqueror that he hadn't been able to answer that night, leading Alicent to believe that Viserys wanted to change the succession.